good, Italian job?
I'm feeling good, Tommy boy. You're looking svelte. You're looking good, almost like you've been posting quite frequently.
Oh my gosh, it's actually somebody's returned to the gloom. Thanks for noticing. Yeah, I'll tell you what, my second workout back was last month's Go Ruck Tribe workout. And it was called Together We Ruck, and it was a proverbial snot woggler.
Nice.
If I had to get up with that sandbag one more time, I probably would have just dug my own grave and rolled over into it. But that's the beauty of that thing. You know, nobody's left behind, and there were three of us getting after it, and it was a struggle bus. And those are the most memorable ones. But man, how are you?
I'm good. We had a convergence this morning, new Nantan, and I looked around.
Nice.
It was like a who's who of people. Like C-SPAN was there. I haven't seen C-SPAN in ages. He came into town, and a handful of guys that everybody's heard of, and I'm not going to rehash it, but it was just great to spend some time with the guys. Hey, I figured it probably would make sense for us to make an announcement, since we're like the first podcast since the announcement.
I think
to make an announcement. Yes. Yeah, should we break the seal?
I would, since we should take the credit that's well deserved and share it with the nation. Why don't you take it away?
Well, I would just say this. There's been a lot of guys who have had some feedback on this, and very excited that the Christian Brothers Automotive Group has announced a partnership with F3 Nation's Grow Ruck program. So for those who don't know, Christian Brothers is a automotive company that does your standard, oil changes, tires, brakes, all the stuff. But they saw something in Grow Up, the same things that we have seen, and it's advancing guys. It's taking them to the next level of leadership. So it seems like a great match. I don't know all the details of it. It doesn't matter. I just want to say, as I'm excited that we've got a corporate sponsor behind Grow Ruck, and maybe this can take it to an advantage to the next level where more men can get involved in our Grow Ruck, our premier leadership training course of action. So it sounds like a commercial. It's not intended to sound like a commercial. If so, we would have that really fast talker at the end, not valid, that sort of thing. But no, it just seems like a pretty cool thing. It's the first time we've done something like this, and let's see how it plays out. I'm excited.
Likewise, it's outstanding, and game recognizes game, I guess. But in all seriousness, it was very cool to have Dementia on last week, and then hear the big news a couple days later. And man, it's really cool to see this thing that is a free men's workout take off, right?
Yeah, man.
So speaking of things taking off, I'm fired up for this week's conversation. We've got a handful of guys coming out of the Katy, Texas area. And when Katy shows up, they always bring something that is definitely stuff worth trying worthy. I don't want to bury the lead, but I also don't want to steal any thunder. So we're going to bring on, well, let me say this. We are going to talk about a challenge called the Gauntlet. So we're going to bring on the creator of the Gauntlet to introduce our actual guest today. So without further ado, Vibram, welcome back to Stuff Worth Trying. Why don't you tee us off, brother?
Well, Luis Mario Rodriguez, 45, Vibram from Katy, Texas. And thank you for having us today. Out of the blue, got the call, the text like, hey, let's do this on Friday. So, okay, here we are. Summary. Create the Gauntlet. The Gauntlet has been going on F3 for a long time, and it's basically classical 3 days a week posting. You have a queue that organizes, cross-pollinates, goes to 3 different AOs with 3 unique beatdowns, and then, I did the Gauntlet, right? Now, every region, as free-to-lead states, they have been modifying that Gauntlet to make it a little bit harder, or etc., with different flavors. I can bring up a big shout out to Fort Bend. Fort Bend has about 20 AOs or more, and Fort Bend, which is where the next Grow Rug is going to happen in November, plug there for Fort Bend. Go sign up and come over to Texas. So Fort Bend's Gauntlet version is schedule AQ, unique on every AO. So you go around the whole region for 20 plus days, right? So incredible. What happened was that Katy has grown so fast, so big, and we have 2 starfishes in the last 60 days. Each starfish has 6 AOs. We got Ruck and Sandbag AOs with 30 people showing up for one BD just out of like a normal day. So it's incredible numbers, right? Now, Katy has pushed all the AOs and the AOQs have pushed the envelope on different areas, and they've been giving awards to packs that post a certain amount of times. Like we have the classical 300 post patch on Mud Gear. Well, they kick it up a notch here in Katy, and a lot of AOs, they give a t-shirt that is completely personalized to the packs that has 100 posts, and they call it the Centurion. And I'm like, oh, that's super cool. Now we got guys doing double Centurion and triple Centurion, and they get another shirt, right? When I look at this, when I started looking at this lately, I was like, okay, we got guys that are super committed, and it takes 8 months. I was doing the math. It takes about 8 months to get a Centurion t-shirt. So this guy is showing, this packs is showing a lot of commitment to showing up. So that was the first thing that clicked on my head. Now he's showing up, but what about going deeper into just not showing up? You put 8 months of showing up. Let's see how many times have you queued. Let's see how many times have you, your word when you do the, the first F part of going the extra mile, reading the literature, and creating that. So I talked to Zelda and I was like, hey, there's this Gauntlet thing going on, old school. I want to kick it up a notch. What do you think about this? And he loved it. So I brought it up at the State of the Region, and everybody, all the AOQs, just for buy-in, and all the AOQs loved it, and they started giving me a lot of feedback. So we made it harder and harder and harder until we posted it. Now, on that meeting, the Hammer was there, and the Hammer was already queues scheduled into the Gauntlet before we made it live, and he went ahead and scheduled another 6 queues to make it completely prereq compliant, and now he's been queuing for the last 2 weeks straight without stop. Only
Wow.
Sunday. So incredible. Now I want to hand it over to Zelda and Hammer. They're right now the 2 participants of the Gauntlet. It has a lot of prereqs. We made it extra hard. They can delve and go deeper into all those prereqs, but they're about to close tomorrow on Saturday and be patched. So Zelda from the Forge, current AOQ of the Forge, and the Hammer, current AOQ for the GOP, which basically, I'm sorry, not the Forge. Yeah, the Forge.
Foundry.
The Foundry. I got it because it's dual like the speaker. I apologize. The Foundry and the GOP that are, funny to say, 2 of our Ruck and Sandbag AOs in Katy. So thank you.
Welcome stuff we're trying, fellas. Yeah, take it away. Let's start with Zelda. Little name and ramen, brother.
Yes, sir. So my name is Tyler Phillips. I'm 30 years old. Zelda. I got my name because I served 6 years in the Navy, and I was a quote unquote a link technician, which is a type of radar system. So I ended up with Zelda. So
nice. That's
again,
pretty
like
solid.
Vibram said. Yeah. I mean, I don't play games, so kind of landed on Princess Zelda, but I'm not upset about that either. So, like Vibram said, I'm the AOQ of the Foundry, the Sandbag Rucking Group out here in Katy. One thing that he knows about me, and a lot of people might know about me in the region, is that I love CSAUPs. So it's there isn't a CSAUP that I either won't attempt, tackle, or train for. So whenever he came to me with another crazy idea, I was on board. I was instantly on board. It started off with, hey, let's do 6 beatdowns, 6 AOs in 6 days. And I said, okay. And then, like he said, we brought it to the state of the AO or state of the region. It continuously got harder and harder. Said, okay, let's check your first F. You have to pass a physical fitness test. Okay. Let's dive a little more into what it means to be a virtuous leader, and say, hey, let's make you requirement to read free delete and read Q source. I said, okay, well then let's take it even farther. This is a Q challenge, so let's up the ante, and you have to have a minimum of 30 sandbag Qs and 30 boot camp Qs. On top of that, you have to have 50 sandbag postings and 50 boot camp postings. So the going mumble chatter around the Katy region is, you have to basically give everything but your social to do the Gauntlet. And while that may be true, this wasn't intended for everyone. And just as GTE wasn't intended for everyone, this takes work. It takes preparation. It takes a lot of discipline. So I'll just really quickly go into why I'm doing it and what I've gotten out of it so far is, yes, it is a first step event. This is a physical event. If anyone knows what Q adrenaline is, it takes a lot. You get up there. Not only do you have to prepare your beatdowns, you got your pre-blast, your back-blast, your words, your prayers, your taps, your announcements, and there's a lot that goes into it. So first and foremost, kudos to Hammer, because when I heard he was throwing some more on the plate, I mean, it was just, I mean, we need to make a separate challenge just for him. So, but aside from the first F, aside from the physical, the physicality of it, to me, and like Vibram mentioned, it's to dive deeper. It's, if the first F is the magnet, where are we going after that? We're trying to build leaders. We're trying to accelerate the LVP. And the only way to do that is to get into the ring, get into the center of the ring. You can't lead by being a gray man. So again, pushing people to get out there, to visit the region, to travel, and to make those connections like Hammer had mentioned. It's, to me, that's first and foremost. Besides the first step, besides the fitness aspect and the discipline it takes, is making those connections and getting those packs to understand that, hey, it's not just a free men's workout. We build male community leadership. It is a free men's workout. That is the magnet, but there's so much more than that. Going along with the prereqs is that every gauntlet beatdown has to have a word that is from the heart, that is based out of Q source, and it also has to end in an AAR. This is something that Hammer, and I apologize, Hammer, I'm probably stealing all the thunder right now, but kind of on a rant right now. But so the AAR, we had kind of briefly mentioned that, hey, this is a really good idea, and this is maybe something that we want to implement into every beatdown. Hearing what the packs, hearing what they're saying, seeing the improvements that you can be making as a Q, as an AOQ, is, in my, it's extremely important. So again, traveling around, hearing the AARs, making those changes, and for instance, Vibram came out to my first beatdown on Monday morning. His AAR was about making sure that you're correcting the cadence and the cues. Even if the cue understands a cadence or a cue, it's up to the cue's responsibility to make sure that everyone else in that gloom, in that circle, is right there with you. So what did I do Tuesday? I stopped everyone during side shuttle hops and I said, hey, get your shit together. Let's do this in cadence properly. And There we go. So again, Tuesday's AAR, et cetera, et cetera. Everything that I learned from each AAR, I was able to implement into the next beatdown. So it was when you're talking about accelerating, that is it right there. That is the definition. So I don't want to take up too much of Hammer's time or anyone else's. So that's, again, kind of my reasons why and what I'm getting out of it. And I'm super excited to be ending tomorrow with this challenge. Really quick, Vibram did not touch on this, but Katy likes to take things one step further. So if this wasn't one step further, there is also a quarterly gauntlet. So this is a seasonal challenge. There is a summer patch, a fall, winter, and spring patch that you can acquire. Once you acquire all 4 patches, you get a shirt. The shirts, again, will have its own unique design, something similar to a Centurion number, and then going even farther than that. We don't want to just limit this to AOQ. Yeah, it goes on and on. But we don't want to limit this to just AOQs. We don't want to limit this to just those guys. We want this to spread like wildfire, and it already has. So going one step farther, the AO that has the most quarterly gauntlet completions gets to plant the gauntlet flag in their at their AO. So again, it's not just a Centurion number. It's not just something that you can say, hey, I did it. It's bragging rights. It's all of that. So again, that's kind of a quick, I guess you could say, quick summary of some of the prereqs, some of my whys, and the things that I'm looking to get out of it.
Outstanding.
Tommy boy. Yeah. Did take a breath, Zelda? That was a lot. That was fantastic.
That's the condensed version. I promise you that. That is the condensed
wow.
version.
I'm going to have to ask the Hammer. Hey, man, is there a PowerPoint presentation or anything? There's so much going on in this one. I don't know if the Hammer has anything to say, but let's toss it to the Hammer and find out. First off, good to see you, man. Second off, I got to know how you got the name, so everybody else knows how you got the name. And if there's anything you can add, I mean, even if it's a small speck to add to what Zelda just said, share with us.
Zelda, just knocked it out of the park.
I crushed it.
Very good job recapping everything, kind of encapsulating everything that we've been going through this past week. I'm Philip Patterson, 33, the Hammer. I got the Hammer. I'm a personal injury attorney. So as soon as I said that in COT, there's an attorney down here called the Texas Hammer, and then immediately they went very easy on me. They could have went a lot of different directions with that, and I got the Hammer, and I love it. So I try to embrace the name, bring the Hammer. I have a special hashtag for all my beat downs. It's Hammer Time, so that's kind of my go-to. Why I'm doing the challenge? I mean, Vibram and Zelda both mentioned that I already had several cues lined up the week before. Just as a personal challenge, it wasn't meant to be that. I just had 3 or 4 already kind of lined up, and I love queuing. And I was like, man, I haven't done that before. Why not just go for it? I'm already close enough. Let's just do 6. In the State of the Region meeting, they mentioned, hey, you can get a patch for doing this. And I'm looking at all the prereqs. I'm like, wow, I can check that off. I can check that off. I can check that off. And I really want a patch. So I reached out to several friends, several AOQs. And I was initially kind of on the fence. Zelda didn't mention, you also have to make a 2.5-minute video of why you're doing it, what free to lead means to you, what Q source means to you, and what the 6 character pillars mean to you. And so initially I was like, man, you got to make a video. I don't know if I really want to do that. And shout out Zorro over at the Peak. I was talking with him, and he was like, man, you can't let a video of all things hold you back. I was like, yeah, you're right. I can't let that hold me back. And that kind of speaks to why I'm doing it. So I want to accelerate. I want to make myself uncomfortable, because how else are we going to grow? I remember for my VQ, how nervous I was, and my first guest queue, how nervous I was. And I want to keep feeling that nervousness and that anxiousness beforehand, because that means I care about it. And so whenever I see guys kind of pushing me and doing different things, it reminds me that I can grow not only in the first F, and leading these workouts, but also in the second half, and all the bonds that I've created over the last 1.5 years and being F3, the bonds that I've created in this past week, 2 weeks, and meeting several guys. You go into these AOs and you do see familiar faces that you've seen around. In Katy, we have a launch, seems like every month. So whenever you have 100+ guys at these launches, you're meeting a lot of guys, and the cafeterias are just amazing. So you end up staying there for an hour, hour and a half, talking to guys and going from group to group and meeting these people. And so you walk into these AOs, and it's not like you're walking into just complete strangers. You're seeing guys but also there's all the new guys, all the guys that haven't been there before, or maybe they couldn't make a launch. And so you're building those connections with them. They're learning. I like to try and bring something from Garden of Pain into my beat down, so they know, hey, this is what we do. Or maybe I learned something from KTX Express. There's a guy Scrum that does the 2-step. I love the 2-step. It's grueling. And so you pick up things as you go around, and guys, and I love it, because I'll go in and I'm like, hey, you want a guest queue at Garden of Pain? And I'm over here like, hey, get on our queue sheet. And so it not only exposes me to these guys, but it's exposing my brothers at my AO to some of these guys that I'm meeting, and some of the leadership that they're showing at their AO. So that's kind of why I did it. Vibram
And Zelda didn't go over they mentioned the unique BDs, the 6 BDs, but they really emphasized the 3S2T, the strength, stamina, speed, mental and physical toughness. So, as you're writing down all these cues, all these winkies the weekend before, because I'm more of a night before kind of guy, I gotta feel it before I put it on paper. But I'm trying to plan these things out, and it's like, man, is this hard enough? How can I make this harder? How can I make it harder? And so, I'm pushing myself, and then sometimes you get out there, and from an LDP standpoint, sometimes you quickly realize, man, I maybe went a little bit too far on this one. How can I modify it, mid beat down, or maybe I didn't make this one hard enough, or this was a great idea, but this is really confusing to explain to the packs. And so maybe it was a creative idea, but it didn't really go over very well in practice. So either I need to do a better job of explaining that, or need to scrap it and just really focus more in on just making it tough. So that's kind of what I've learned. And Zelda had mentioned the after action reports. Man, I never do those beforehand. There are some AOs that do some variation of that after their beatdowns. And some of them do it in chats where it's a little bit more private after the fact. But asking guys to lay it on you, the good, the bad, the ugly, right afterwards, I think it speaks to candor. One, that you're willing to take this criticism and appreciate it and try and use those things to grow yourself. Because there were definitely things that I heard the first couple of days that I was like, oh man, I've heard that, in different aspects of my life, not just here in F3, where, okay, hey, this controlled environment of a queue, of a beatdown, let me try and implement that here on Wednesday, on Thursday, on Friday. And then on those after action reports, I'm not hearing that. I'm hearing maybe I'm so focused in on that aspect of it that I forget, something very simple like assigning a CPR queue or checking for FNGs. And so I think that's also good for some of those newer guys that are maybe nervous of doing a VQ, that, hey, here I've done 50 something, 60 something queues. I'm still forgetting the simple things. I'm still forgetting, these little check boxes that you need to mark off, and kind of take some of that, need to be perfect to queue, because that's not really what it's all about. It's more about, whenever you mess up, hearing that mumble chatter, hearing how are you going to take that mumble chatter? How are you going to roll with it? Do you improve as the queue progresses, as the beatdown progresses, and really running with it?
I dig it, man. You hit the nail on the head with real-time feedback, right? I mean, on paper, we're just a free men's workout, but this opportunity to be able to grow in an environment that I want to say a safe environment, but that's such a, I don't know, platitude. An environment designed to sharpen all men that partake, right? And so to really get genuine feedback, not just from a corporate setting where people feel like they have to say something just to say something. These are guys who love on you to the point that they want to see everything that you do accelerate. And the Gauntlet truly speaks to, I know you guys said it's a first step challenge, but I hear so much beyond the first step that really gets into the power of not only a concentrica, but goal setting and follow through, which are things that a virtuous leader owns. And we just don't have enough of those in our world right now. So I applaud you guys for what you're doing. I also, you mentioned the video. I made the mistake of watching your video with my wife in the room. So, hey, man, knock it off. All right. Leave some for the rest of us. I mean, for crying out loud, dude. So Zelda, as you hear Hammer talk, and the same question for Hammer as you hear Zelda talk, what are some kind of final thoughts, closing thoughts, whatever? Or actually, what do you think of your brother, knowing that you guys are both suffering through this now that you've heard each other describe it?
Really quick, I'll go first, and we're all grown men here, and this is a first F derivative, but to say that there's no competition in F3 Katy is ridiculous. we have charity, I'm not sure if the nation is familiar with the charity challenges. We do charity challenges to where it's, you have to do 8,000 squats in 60 days. We just did 8,000 Merkins in 60 days. And it's always, hey, how many Merkins are you at? Or, hey, there's 1,000-mile challenge this year. How many miles are you at? So it's not that it's competition to say I'm better than you. It's accountability and to push each other. So, there has been some slight competitive mumble chatter between not only me and the Hammer, but also we didn't mention this is the Gauntlet groupies. So this is a group of men that travel the region with you, and there are a lot more. And shout out to Zima and Cholula, or my current groupies, and they're a lot more than just packs who travel with you, because they are your support. Like Hammer said, when you're doing all of these different cues, there's going to be something that you miss. There's going to be a recover call that is missed, or what have you. So they're there in the background, saying, hey guys, sound off. If it's on cue, let's sound off. If it's in cadence, sound off. So they're there to not only to support the cause and the challenge, but also to support the cue. So again, going back, there our groupies kind of get into some of the comments on band, and they're kind of chopping at each other. And there's me and the Hammer are doing this at the same time. So there's who's going to be Gauntlet 01? Who's going to be Gauntlet 02? Because again, this is more of a Centurion style numbering system. So to the Hammer, I already said it earlier, but to have 12 cues in 14 days is just ridiculous. I actually started queuing last Friday. So I had Friday, then I queued a launch. Shout out to the Shire, but I had a launch station there that I had to queue for an hour and a half, which was brutal. And then had Sunday off, and then went straight into mine. So although I didn't have 12, I did have still a good amount. So my hat's off to him. He's an absolute machine. He's actually come out and guest queued at the Foundry before. And I'm actually going out to the Garden of Pain on August 28th. So we see each other at these launches. We see each other at each other's AOs. We see each other around the region. And again, it's a friendly, competitive nature. But in all reality, we're here for each other. Iron sharpens iron. So whatever I can do to help out my fellow packs, not only the Hammer, but those at these AOs, and that's what we're going to do. So I have nothing but the most respect for the Hammer, and I'm really excited to see how this is taken off. I think Vibram, what do we have now? Up to 5 applicants, and then 10 total that we're expecting 10 before the end of 2023. We already have four that are confirmed signed up. One more who is planning right now, and then I mean our AOQ chat within band is just it's active. So we're ruffling feathers. We're causing some disruption, and we're kind of taking off with it.
For me, I mean, it definitely. I love this kind of stuff. I love seeing other guys pushing themselves, because between band and Strava, and you see all whether it's running, you're like, man, I ran 5 miles today, but this guy ran 7. Man, tomorrow I need to run more. And so, seeing Zelda do it, it's kind of pushed me, and I'm already planning my next run here for my fall Gauntlet run. So, if it was only me doing it, it wouldn't really feel the same. I love, having that camaraderie, seeing his groupies go around. I think it's just hilarious. But then there were guys, on Sunday I did my APFT, and 8 Mile, one of the packs at my AO, decided he was going to organize a whole APFT test just for me. And, several guys came out there to do it with me. So it's not just me doing it alone. So it kind of became, we had 5 guys out there. Vibram came out there. We're out there drinking coffee, hanging out on a Sunday morning before church, or whatever you're going to do on Sunday, doing an APFT. Why not? Right. And so another guy, you mentioned the video, Moby, this young guy that does videography. He's like, hey, I'll edit your video and I'll do all these cuts. And you probably haven't seen the outtake video, which is all the all the funny bloopers from in between all the cuts. And so it really, you have the saying, it takes a village. It truly does. just seeing a bunch of guys come around you and support you and want to see you succeed is very uplifting. You kind of put yourself aside, like, man, I'm doing this for these guys. But at the same time, I've been traveling around for 2 weeks. I miss my guys. I miss being in my home AO. I'll be back there on Monday. And I've already been talking to them, trying to stay active in the chat, just so it's not so like such a distant amount of time. But it's been very, very, very fun. Very, very uplifting. Seeing Zelda do a lot of this stuff and seeing the comments on his back blast, and you're like, man, Zelda, you just destroyed me today. I'm like, oh man, then that pushes me again. I'm like, man, okay, well, what's my workout look like tomorrow? How can I make it a little bit harder? For these poor guys that have to go through my beatdown tomorrow. So it's been very fun. I've learned a lot from it. Physically, from a second F standpoint, I always try and stay to the end of cafeteria, whatever AO I'm at, just so I'm really maximizing the second F element of what I'm doing. And then I kind of hit on this a second ago with the third F, kind of putting yourself aside and it being bigger than yourself. It's because you're really trying to accelerate, and not just your first F. It's all three.
Battalion job. Who's got it better than us, man?
Nobody. Looking at this group here, Vibram reminded us every man on this call has been a part of Grow Ruck events, have finished Grow Ruck events, and a lot of the principles that you guys are hitting on. The reason Grow Ruck exists is not only for invigorating male community leadership; it's invigorating a region. And to hear that AARs have been incorporated, to hear that you guys are stepping up not only first, second, and third F, you guys are stepping up in community. You're doing all the things that a lot of our governance is not doing. You're doing the things that are needed, and you're doing it not because you were told to. You're doing it because it's the right thing to do. So, I'm always encouraged when I talk to guys from Katy, Texas, and that region that's just absolutely blowing up and expansion and seeing these starfish breaking off. This is exactly what it's all about, guys. And for the guys who are listening and wondering, well, why doesn't my region ever get mentioned on stuff we're trying? We'd love to hear from you. We like to talk to anybody who has a story. We talk about Katy a lot because these guys, they're crushing it. Just killing it, and honored to spend some time with you guys again today to learn about the Gauntlet. And if anybody has questions, Tommy Boy, if we can, let's put some stuff in the show notes so guys can kind of get a feel for it, because there's a lot to this. But I think the point that I just want to make sure, this isn't just a first F challenge, and this isn't just the competition is great. We love the competition because it pushes us to go a little bit harder, a little bit more than we would normally do on our own. But this is all three Fs, and it's about taking that next step in your leadership, getting better towards advantage. And that's the type of stuff that we're excited to share. Tommy Boy, anything you want to close out with today?
No, just thanks to Zelda, the Hammer, Vibram for putting this out and bringing the guys together. I am going to, in the show notes, you'll find a link to not only the 300-page document, but the 42 slide deck presentation so that you can roll this out at a meeting near you. Now, Vibram did supply us with a really easy, digestible document that lays it all out there. And as always, guys who come on the show love to give it away. So if you have questions, all three of these guys can be found on Slack as well. So that being said, fellas, thanks for carving out time. I'm fired up to see how this takes off across the country. As I just said, thank you for giving it away. We're better for it. Podpaxers, as always, be good or be good at it.
Good to talk to you, man. Thank you.